Okay, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another brand new Rugby Muscle podcast. I'm your host, as always, TJ, and today we are going to reintroduce the Rugby Physical Preparation Pyramid. This is a concept I came up with last year and was met quite resoundingly positively, which I was really happy with. And I've had about a year or so to stew on it and really go over my ideas and really get a even deeper understanding of what I'm trying to give to you guys with this Rugby Physical Preparation Pyramid, how I'm trying to help rugby players really of all levels. So if you're brand new to this channel or to the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I will be giving you a lot more information on this pyramid itself, but also a lot more information on how you can become the best rugby player you can be, and appropriately for whatever level you're at. And this is something that I think is unique to the Physical Preparation Pyramid, is that it does try to encompass everything. So without further ado, let's get into it. First off, we need to understand, or I need to get you to understand, why I decided that a pyramid was going to be the most appropriate thing for me to conceptualize this program as. And there's a number of reasons. And the biggest one really is that I wanted to give you a way of understanding the full spectrum of rugby. Rugby is such a diverse sport with such a diverse playing base that we couldn't just attribute it to one or two or three different things, and we couldn't just say, you need to do this or this method or whatever. It's so diverse, and there's so many different ways to handle different problems and approach to certain problems, and then there's also so many different perspectives that people have, that a pyramid sort of encompasses it all, as you'll see as we get into this. So it's from amateurs to professionals, from the different aspects that you need in the game. So from the open play aspects, of wide open spaces, to real close contact combat situations. And then also like I said, the diverse playing base with new players or young players, all the way to old and experienced players on all shapes and sizes. And the pyramid also explains this quite well, rather than just using some sort of timeline or system that you could use with that, because it puts those system of order of importance and understanding, giving you a real understanding of what advanced means, but not necessarily having you to do to focus on some of the aspects that you might already be good at. So it really conceptualizes that quite well. And the reason that I'm doing this, rather than giving you the best program ever, or giving you the secret program, or putting that behind a paywall, is because I think that this understanding gives you a level of freedom to train and solve those problems as a rugby player in whichever way you choose fit. I think that if you're kept in the blind, then every sort of new training method, every movement, every exercise, every test, every different protocol is like a new shiny object, and you gravitate towards that, hoping that it's going to solve all of your problems. Once we get more of an understanding, we shine a light to all of it, and we can also put all of these different shiny objects in the context of what we're trying to achieve. And that way we can actually get have a process by which we actually want to achieve all the physical things that we need to do and want to do as a rugby player and as a performance athlete. And then therefore we'll be able to get the results, and then therefore we'll be able to get the motivation. If we don't have those things down in the first place, that is probably the number one contributor to a lot of people lacking consistency, lacking being able to stay motivated, because they're just not getting the results, and they're not seeing the results, and they have no real process. Everything's in itself. So get a little bit ahead of myself here, because that's something that we'll come on to in a second. And then so even more reasons why we're looking at this as a pyramid is because we don't want to give you the ultimate program, because it doesn't exist. There is no perfect movement. You would see, I've seen videos before, and this is actually something that I fell for when I was first starting my foray into rugby strength and conditioning for myself. I saw the England rugby strength coach at the time give away his top 5 movements that he gave to Men's Fitness for a video, and it made for a real nice video. But it doesn't. You don't really get what you're trying to achieve with each one, and each movement isn't necessarily magic. It's what you're trying to achieve with the movements. And like we've already said, there are so many different ways to solve for these problems that we don't necessarily have to do that movement at that given time in that given rep range. It's all very context dependent. And this context would depend upon, the availability, what we have at our gym, because amateur players, you might not have the same things available in your local gym compared to, you know, whatever they've got available at the England Sevens training centre or whatever, right? You might not have the same pitch dimensions, so what a full length of the field sprint to you might be very different to the full length of the field sprint to on another pitch. You know, we might not have the same structure, so people have got different limb lengths, which make movements very difficult, or different at least, along with our mobility, so they might not be appropriate. Like for example, this guy doing the overhead squat here with the pistol thing. Like, some people just will not be able to move a lot of people won't be able to do this movement, not that you should, but a lot of people won't be able to do this movement, so, you know, immediately it just gets thrown out. And then on the top of that, we're talking about the needs. Like, each movement should have a specific need, and if we are already really strong, maybe we don't need to do heavy barbell back squats every session that we have, whereas if we're lacking in strength, maybe we do. There's so many different permutations that come of this, which is again why we're trying to do this as an educational pyramid, so that you can get an understanding of what you need. Same thing for the rep range, right? There's no specific stuff that you have to do in a certain specific rep range, because it would all be goal dependent. It'd also be movement dependent. You know, if you're doing a running session, it depends on what you're trying to achieve with that session. If you're trying to achieve speed, then you would sprint and rest for that given answer, for that given outcome. Whereas if you're trying to sprint for repeated sprint ability, or if you're trying to run slowly for aerobic ability, that would be something completely different. And then the dimension of the pitch might not even come into it. So there's so many different ways that we can like analyze our training and organize our training as such that there is no set system that we have to stick to. No set movement, no set rep range, and there's no need to sort of pigeonhole ourselves into this, because if we do, then it just blocks off very useful, very appropriate, and things that we can absolutely do to increase our performance, and it just cuts them out and it stops them being available to us. So by introducing this as a pyramid, we now can actually take every single training concept, training exercise, rep range, movement, workout, and put it through this filter of, okay, what are we trying to do with this exercise, with this workout, with this session, with this program, and understand whether that's going to be appropriate for us as rugby players or not. So the pyramid itself is, as you see here, it's really very simple, but it's structured in a way that, you know, you need to have the bottom things in place to then build upon each level. It gives you a good concept and understanding of not only why, you know, you are doing, or why you should be targeting what you should be targeting, depending on where you are in the spectrum of a rugby player, or where your needs are needed, but also it makes you understand why other players are doing what they're doing. Like, you'll see a lot of professional rugby players probably spend a lot more of their time in that top end, particularly when they're doing sessions that are for the YouTube or for social media because they look cool. You'll see spend a lot of the time on the top of this pyramid, simply because they've already tapped out a lot of their base. They've got a really strong base, they've got a really good foundation, they've got a really good level 2 built up. So now they've paid their dues and they're finally able to work on the top. Or they might have not actually spent too much time. Like, you might have some talented players that have really good genetics, and they might have a really good base just because of the genetics, just because it was the way they were born. And so they can spend more of their time working on different areas. Likewise, it can show you as a rugby player where your biggest bang for your buck is going to be, where that low-hanging fruit is going to be, because I guarantee you a lot of you watching this will have one glaring weakness, particularly on that level 1 stage, and you can get a lot of bang for your buck just by filling out that area, because then that gives you room to build up your pyramid as you work on, you know, the stuff at level 2 and maybe even level 3. But, you know, the more you're working on your level 1, the more you're actually just consistently adding to your base and being able to become a better rugby player. If you're spending too much time working on level 2, but your base or your foundation isn't quite there, that could potentially be a decent waste of your time. And you know, this pyramid sort of conceptualizes that, right? The other thing I also have to really make sure that I bring up here is that this is a physical preparation pyramid. This is not the only way to become a very good rugby player, because physical preparation is only one type of training that we can do as rugby players. We can also have our skill preparation, where we work on our different skills, including our contact skills. So we could be stronger than our opponent, but our opponent might have a better ability to ruck, and therefore they actually beat us at every single ruck, because not because they're stronger, but because they have the better skill of rucking. There's also a tactical component. We might be better skilled and stronger and faster and physically superior to our opponents, but our opponents play the game better. Maybe they play the conditions. Maybe you'll see it a lot when you look at, for example, the Pacific Island national teams. One of their criticisms is that, they have so much talent and they play the game so well. When they string their phases together, it's fantastic. But often the times they get tactically outthought and outplayed by the opposition, because the opposition refuse to get sucked into their game, which is a fun game to watch and requires a great deal of physical ability and skill ability, but that's where the tactical element might be missing. So there's all those different areas that you can improve as a rugby player. This is just a snippet of that, but it's also one that you can really control. You can have a really good deal of time spent in your physical preparation that can pay dividends elsewhere. Now, the big mistakes people run into, and what I'm trying to solve with this pyramid, is that most people will ignore their base. So they might, for example, feed poor movements, and that means that if they're working on their strength or their speed, but they move really poorly, they're more likely to get injured. But they've also got their base is not there. So then, therefore, whatever they've built on top of their weak base can come crumbling down in the form of an injury, or it's very limited to how high you can build that structure or how well you can develop your speed or your strength or whatever. It's the same thing for strength, or same thing for speed and power output in your core. If you have really poor movement, the other stuff isn't going to come into play. Same thing for hypertrophy. If you're quite small, if you don't have too much muscle mass, there's only a certain limit to the amount of strength, absolute strength, and even speed and power output that you can produce. So getting bigger might help you out. Same thing for aerobic capacity. If you get gassed after 2 minutes of work, then there's only so much speed and power output that you can really work on and utilize, or strength as well. All of these things tie into each other, and there's a reason that level 1 is level 1, which we'll save for another video. Then another big bit, and actually before I get into that, the other thing about ignoring the base is people, as rugby players, we tend to focus on the thing that we're good at, the thing that we enjoy the most. So if we're already pretty big, that's what's got us to the dance, and that tends to be what we end up hanging our hat on. So we'll continue to do bodybuilding, hypertrophy workouts, even though we've tapped out a benefit for that. And because now that we've got to go to an area such as maybe movement control, which makes us feel like a complete amateur, or aerobic capacity where we're getting gassed after 5 minutes, it's not nice to go back to being a beginner again, but that's something that is that low-hanging fruit, and is a real area that will pay off for you as a rugby player if you spend time in the areas that you've been neglecting, and therefore getting worse, and therefore not finding the enjoyment, and going back to the things that you are good at and you enjoy. Really big thing I see with a lot of rugby players, particularly amateurs. Another big problem, and this comes because of the result, I think, of the fitness industry in general, is that they look at workouts rather than looking at a strategy. And the easiest way to see why this is a big problem is understanding, when does change happen? When do you get the benefits of a workout? It's not, you don't do a workout and then the next day, I've improved, I'm that much stronger today. No, it happens over a long period of time, over not just days, but weeks and months. So when you understand that if that one single workout counts for dick all, right? It's how you sequence those workouts, next upon next upon next upon next, and that is what creates you to progress. If you think about, how does change happen? Does it happen because of one workout and then you wait a week for that workout to have paid dividends? No. It happens because you do one workout and then the next week you do hopefully something very similar, if not the same, and you keep hammering home at those aspects, and you keep slowly making those improvements. Same like learning a language. You wouldn't just try to speak a language one day and then do another test, and then wait a week and then just do a test. You wouldn't get any better. You would learn it in a sequence so that you would build words upon words upon words, and by eventually you're able to speak that language. Same thing for your training and your physical improvements. You have to really try and hammer home specific things to improve upon week on week on week on week, and that's how change happens. And then if you can sequence those weeks into a program that goes into another program that's part of an overall bigger strategy to make you a better rugby player, that's how you're going to make the change. Not through one magical workout, and not even through one magical workout that you keep repeating. It's from consistent applying of your strategy within this physical preparation pyramid. Really, really important point. And another big mistake that people make, and this is one that sort of happens because of the stuff that we've just discussed, is inconsistency. And this inconsistency from my perspective comes from a lack of a goal. As rugby players, we say, I want to be a better rugby player. But they don't know what that means. They don't know. It kind of means that they got to get stronger. It kind of means that they got to get faster. It kind of means that they've got to get fitter. But they don't understand the whole process. And so if we go back to the pyramid itself, this should conceptualize what that actually does mean for you. And because you don't have a goal and you don't know what you're trying to work towards, it's very difficult to tell whether you're getting results. So that's why people tend to lean towards the strength workouts or the hypertrophy workouts, because you can see the reps go up on your workout log, hopefully, if you're doing the same thing. Or it's why people tend to go towards just doing lots of different fun quote unquote WODs, because they're looking for fun in their training rather than looking for results, because they're never knowing if they actually are getting results, because they don't have a goal that they're trying to achieve. Same thing for aerobic. Like, it's very easy if you're a runner to see that your run is getting better over time, and so that's what you carry on doing. Whereas if you have a bigger picture, you can understand where that run fits in with everything else. And that all speaks to a lack of direction, a lack of real purpose with your training. And therefore, you're just like I said earlier, going from shiny object to shiny object, because you're not really sure what you're supposed to be doing. And this really does develop inconsistencies. It stops you from building out good habits that are really going to progress you as a rugby player and have you consistently create that change. Because as we said, that change doesn't happen within a session, or within a day, or within a week, or within a couple of weeks. It happens over a long period of time. So that's something that we have to really build towards. And so I understand that with this pyramid, there isn't a real solution. There's just lots of concepts. So I do want to give you guys a solution. And yes, it is my stuff, but there's a reason I created it. I created it because it's stuff that I believe in. So if you think that nope, you want to go it alone, you want to really be sure that you're not paying any money because you think you can do this yourself, you're welcome to give this a try. So what I would say is figure out your strategy. So create some goals, where you're lacking in the pyramid, maybe talk to your coach, maybe talk to someone else, and then create a plan to get towards those goals. It's quite as simple as that, really. There are lots of different programs out there you can get for free, or inspiration that you can get for free to work towards the specific goals that you need. It doesn't even need to be rugby specific at that point, because you're working towards different physical aspects. In itself, that is rugby specific, right? And then you really make a time to commit. You don't look at any other shiny objects. You stick with your process, and you keep progressing for a period of time. Maybe that's 3, 6, 9, or 12 months. This can still lead to overthinking, and you can chop and change a program on a weekly basis, and it tends to be what I tend to do. As someone that even has all of this knowledge, I end up a lot of the time second guessing myself because of that knowledge, and that sometimes stops me from committing to the process myself, which is why I do this second option. I get a coach. A coach provides you expertise that you might not have yourself. You wouldn't, it's sort of like if you need your car, if you need the motor fixed in your car, you go to a mechanic, you go to an expert upon that. It's the same thing for this. You can't be expected, you're a human being, which is far more complex than a car. You can't be expected to understand all of this yourself, particularly if this isn't your job. And even if this is your job, like me, it still helps, because it helps prevent paralysis by analysis. The more you know, the more options you give, because there are no real terrible options. There's just different ideas and concepts. Having a coach just gives you that straight direction. This is what you've got to follow. You don't have to worry about what you've got to do. You've just got to focus on doing it. And then it would also be like getting a mechanic to work on your car, but you're the engine. So the whole time that mechanic is working on your car, you're understanding what's happening. You're watching. You're part of that process. You're not just watching. You're doing the bloody work. So over time, you might get a deeper level of understanding, but you're getting that understanding whilst progressing, but also whilst doing it, whilst you get a deeper level because you're the one experiencing it. And you know more than anyone else what you're going through. Now, does that give you the understanding to continue to not have paralysis by analysis? In my case, no. But it doesn't matter. For you, it could be. And so, even if you've never had a coach before, I do think that, a significant period of time getting coached can give you that level of understanding. And if my stuff is appealing to you and if that's what you want, rugby-muscle.com/elite is my cheap plug for my coaching service. If you want another coach, that's absolutely fine. But I do think that getting a coach even if it's for a short period of time, gives you a level of understanding, let alone the direction and everything else, deeper than you would get anywhere else. And you'd be able to execute on a plan that is a lot more difficult to sort of do when you're the person coming up with that plan. If that's not for you, if that's not within your budget, that's fine. I understand we all have our own priorities. So I would then look at, this is the other solution that I've come up with here within my business, and that is Team Rugby Muscle. And this is a program which is, I wouldn't even call it a program. It's a system-oriented, flexible programming system. Okay? By which I mean we have year-round periodization. So we've got different aspects of training working on year-round. We have a onboarding process. If you're brand new, you get a program that will build you onto the style of training that we get onto. And then you follow a program with the rest of the group year-round, working on all the different components in a systemized manner so that they build upon the next, upon the next, upon the next. That program in itself is absolutely flexible, where you can add in workouts, you can take out workouts, you can chop and change exercises depending on your needs and availabilities, depending on your priorities, depending on your schedule, depending on where you are at and what you need to work on in the physical preparation pyramid. And on top of that, we give you access to the academy so that you can make educated decisions upon those things that you need to improve. And so if you're keen for that, that's a lot less. It's only $39.99 a month, and you can access that at rugby-muscle.com/team. It doesn't quite give you the complete direction, or it gives you the direction, but doesn't quite give you the completely hands off. You have to then, it's almost like rather than getting a mechanic to completely work on your car, you've got a guide to teach you how to work on your car whilst you're doing it. And so you're able to then really make the adjustments, get the understanding that you need, whilst also following a program that, again, takes the thinking out when you get into the gym and you're able to execute on all of that stuff. Now, if those two options don't seem like anything, at least I think sticking with us at Rugby Muscle here, sticking on this YouTube channel, hitting subscribe, following this podcast is a really good way to get your education going, to really get a deeper level of understanding so you're not falling for these mistakes. You're not just doing workouts at random. You're actually having a system in place so that you can get the best out of yourself as a rugby player. So thumbs up, comment below on the YouTube if you have any questions, even if it's just, TJ, I'm not sure about this or this or this, or if it's, TJ, you look a bit strange with your glasses today. Always open to hearing all your comments in the YouTube section below, so I will reply to all of those. Look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.